even though he's going on late night Truth Social tirades, in the middle of the night, he's texting and calling Governor Walz a name that we don't use anymore to disability. He's attacking female reporters as piggy and ugly. He's falling asleep in the middle of a meeting. I mean, I said yesterday that Marco Rubio is boring, but not that boring that he would fall asleep. So what do you think's going on with him?
Trump is being Trump.
Really? There's nothing cognitively wrong there?
Well, I'm not saying whether there is or isn't. What I'm saying is 77 million people don't care. They voted for him. And those same 77 million people
Is it still that
again.
number?
They would do it. Well, you could say that it is or isn't, but the point is he's the president of the United States. Despite the onslaught of stuff that was coming his way, he knocked off folks, and the Democrats let him because they weren't on their game.
Have you ever noticed how The View feels less like a daytime talk show and more like a carefully staged ambush wrapped in polite smiles? That was exactly the atmosphere when Stephen A. Smith stepped onto the set recently. What followed wasn't just survival, it was a calm, methodical dismantling of the panel's outrage machine. Stephen A. didn't raise his voice, didn't lose his composure, and didn't play along. Instead, he exposed just how tired and ineffective performative outrage has become. The exchange kicked off with Joy Behar doing what she's done for years, launching into a dramatic critique of Donald Trump. This time, it was about mean texts, name-calling, and reports of him falling asleep in meetings. The implication was clear. Moral panic was expected, and Stephen A. was supposed to pile on, but he didn't. Rather than matching Joy's indignation, he shrugged it off with a simple truth. Trump is being Trump. No fireworks, no hysteria, just reality. Stephen A. wasn't defending Trump. He was pointing out that after nearly a decade of nonstop outrage, most people are no longer shocked. The emotional script no longer works. That refusal to play along clearly rattled Joy, who seemed frustrated that she couldn't pull him into the familiar outrage spiral. That moment marked the first real mic drop, because Stephen A. wasn't just declining a side, he was rejecting the entire premise of manufactured indignation. When that failed, Sunny Hostin jumped in with what she likely believed was a decisive gotcha. She brought up Stephen A.'s criticism of Senator Mark Kelly regarding a video suggesting troops could refuse illegal orders, but Stephen A. calmly dismantled the argument. His point wasn't about intent, it was about responsibility. Encouraging even the perception of insubordination within the military is dangerous. Chain of command matters, and Stephen A. made that clear without flinching. In the end, what stood out wasn't aggression or theatrics, but composure, and that's what truly disarmed the panel.
I like you, right? Okay, so you recently accused Senator Mark Kelly, a veteran, an astronaut, of crossing the line for participating in a video reminding troops that they can refuse to follow illegal orders.
Okay.
Let's see some of what you said, my friend.
Sure.
You know better, Senator Kelly. You know better. How dare you do that? You could go to the House. You can put up drawer paperwork. You can try to start articles of impeachment if you think there's something illegal. I mean, damn, it ain't like y'all haven't done it before. You impeached the man twice. Where'd that get you? Got his behind back in the White House. Had you left him alone since 2020, maybe he wouldn't be back. You don't tell military men and women to ignore an order from the commander-in-chief. You don't do that.
Stephen A. Smith didn't just make his argument, he backed it up. He explained that before speaking on the issue, he had consulted military friends and family to confirm his understanding. That alone set him apart. When was the last time someone on The View led with research instead of rhetoric? The studio energy shifted instantly. Sunny Hostin tried to nudge him into retreat, smiling as she offered him a chance to perhaps change your position. Stephen A. didn't blink. "I'm not changing a thing," he replied. "I didn't stutter once. That was it. No shouting. No drama, just calm certainty." He stepped around the pressure effortlessly, proving that in 2025, clarity and confidence beat volume every time.
I'd love to give you the opportunity to perhaps change your position on what you said.
I'm not changing a thing.
Okay.
I didn't stutter when
you
I
want to
said
say
it.
loud and wrong?
Well, you could call it loud and wrong all you want to. You're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine.
Okay.
Here's the reality of the situation. First of all, I don't give a damn what Pete Hegseth has to say because I will tell you right now, he was never qualified for the job. When you talk about DEI and eradicating that, excuse me, what was he doing hosting Fox News on the weekend and all of a sudden he's the defense secretary? Please, give me a break. I don't care what he has to say. We get that out the way. As it pertains to Mark Kelly, what I was talking about was military. What I did was get on the phone with family and friends who have served in the military. And I said, we're not civilians. This is not the court of law.
By this point, the View panel was clearly on the defensive. Their two strongest angles had fallen flat, so they raised the stakes. The conversation pivoted into a familiar third tactic, implying that Stephen A. didn't care enough about women, minorities, or the LGBT community simply because he refused to echo their preferred talking points. It was a textbook move. When the argument fails, shift the focus to the person's character. But once again, that strategy was about to backfire.
It was important, I think, for Democrats to show that they stood with the LGBT community, that they stood with Black women and women in general, because once you let us go, once you let women and poor people go, what do you have? And so I've listened to lots of people say, you know, that you didn't follow what was necessary. They did it the way they thought they could. It didn't work for them. They got it.
See, respectfully, I don't like that. Let me explain.
That's okay.
Let me explain.
Just like you said to Sunny.
Let me explain.
He sure did say that to me.
Let me
We're
explain.
gonna come back. We have to take a break.
Stephen Smith didn't take the bait. Calm but firm, he reminded the panel that caring about poor and marginalized communities isn't owned by any single political party. The real issue, he argued, isn't who claims the moral high ground, but who can actually deliver results and win elections. And he had a point. Democrats have spent years leaning on emotional appeals and anti-Trump messaging while overlooking what many voters care about most. Moral outrage doesn't defeat a candidate like Trump. Offering a stronger alternative does. Jobs, public safety, and affordability win elections, not performative headlines that feel good but change nothing.
Talk about poor people. Who ain't thinking about poor people? Democratic Party, I know I do. I know that most candidates within the Democratic Party that I know they think about poor folks. I know they think about the desolate and the disenfranchised. I get that. But what I'm saying is that during the campaign, were you doing what it takes to win? You had too many people going after him for stuff that wasn't going to stick. It wasn't going to influence his voters. So what I would say to you, Whoopi, and what I would say to anybody that doesn't want J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or somebody like that to succeed him, focus on what's going to win.
Before the final knockout, there was another standout moment, the Epstein files question. When the host brought it up, the tone shifted to barely concealed excitement, as if they were fishing for gossip. Did Stephen think Trump was in those files? His response was calm, logical, and hard to refute. If there were truly incriminating evidence, he said, it would already be public. Trump has been scrutinized nonstop for nearly a decade, with media and investigators combing through every detail of his life. If there were a real smoking gun, it would have surfaced long ago, likely before the last election, not quietly hidden away.
So I want to ask you, is this the tip of the iceberg? What do you think the Trump administration will actually and ultimately release? And if they have nothing to hide, why did they fight so forcefully against this?
Well, I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious in terms of, you know, the hesitancy in releasing the Epstein files, particularly when it's something you campaigned on. So I think in that regard, fine. But I also believe that there are people that have seen the Epstein files, and if there was something directly incriminating about Trump, it's something that would have been, we would have found out about it before the election, because every measure would have been exhausted to make sure he didn't return to the White House. I do believe, however, when you have power brokers in place, what happens is on both sides of the aisle, it could be people in those Epstein files that can be severely incriminated, obviously. And anybody,
they protect each other.
Well, they protect each other. And
You don't think Trump is in the files? I mean, he was mentioned over 1,000 times.
I'm not saying he wasn't in the file. It wasn't in the files. I'm saying that if it was something really, really incriminating against him, I think we would have heard about it by now.
Then Stephen A. did something masterful. He flipped the entire narrative. He reminded the panel that Trump publicly called out Epstein as early as 2015, warning people that Epstein was bad news. That's not something you say if you're part of the operation. You could see the realization hit as faces fell and the anticipated gotcha vanished. At that point, it wasn't an interview, but a witch hunt. They weren't searching for truth, only confirmation. Stephen A. offered none. Just clear, factual, unshakable answers as their talking points quietly collapsed.
He did say that, but there's also videos of him calling out Epstein and saying, down the line, beware, because there's going to be some dirt you're going to find out about this man.
Yeah, but remember what year he said that in.
2015.
That's kind of, you know.
They did reportedly have a falling out, but
I heard it was over some property in Florida, believe it or not. Well, I mean, the excuses for it is what it is, but the point is that Epstein was doing what he was doing for years. So whether it was 2015, 2010, I don't care when it was. If you're that kind of despicable human being, I want to find out about it. Damn if it was 20 years ago.
By this point, the dynamic had completely shifted. The View hosts were no longer driving the conversation. Stephen A. was. They were reacting, not leading, which is the hallmark of a strong communicator. Without forcing it, he controlled the room. Then came the final act, Gavin Newsom and the Democratic Party. Stephen A. gave Newsom credit for being articulate and polished, but he focused on results. California's soaring cost of living, rampant homelessness, and rising crime speak for themselves. It's hardly a convincing resume for higher office. He didn't need dramatic language. The facts did the work. What made it land was that it wasn't partisan.
You got to pay attention to Gavin Newsom. He's gaining some traction. I don't think he'll win, but he's gaining traction.
Why not?
Because I think that ultimately they'll look at the state of California, they'll look at affordability, look at homelessness, look at crime, and they'll say, hello, highest cost of living in the country. They'll be like, what? Wait a minute now. So I think that'll be a problem for him, but he's articulate enough to defend himself, and we'll see what happens.
Smith wasn't rooting for Trump or taking shots at Democrats. He was doing something far rarer, telling the truth. He pointed out that Democrats had years to prepare for Biden's visible decline and chose to do nothing. Everyone saw it coming, yet party leaders smiled for the cameras and pretended all was well. Then, at the last moment, they pushed Kamala Harris into an impossible situation with no clear strategy. When it predictably failed, they acted surprised. Stephen A. called it political malpractice and argued Harris was set up to fail by her own party, a claim that's hard to dismiss. She was asked to fix chaos she didn't create, then blamed when it didn't work. That isn't leadership, it's scapegoating. By the end, the panel looked exhausted. Every tactic had failed. Stefana flipped the script calmly, without shouting or ego. In an era where noise replaces debate, that composure felt almost radical.
In the same breath, when I see what I saw prior to the election, if you're going to come to me and tell me that's our alternative, what was going on before the election, and you're saying, Stephen A., you could be on the debate stage with these politicians and you get an opportunity to call them out.
Are you referring to Kamala?
I would love it. I'm referring to all of them. Everybody, nobody's getting a pass from the Democratic Party. Well, again, she was the candidate, but we know what happened. I thought she was set up to fail by the Democratic Party personally because you bypassed the primary. Yeah. You knew that Biden wasn't ready. You knew it for a year. And you did nothing.
This moment reveals a big shift. The public has changed. People are done with prepackaged outrage and the emotional roller coaster of cable news. They want honesty, nuance, and perspective. They can handle complex truths. And the old media formula, yelling orange man bad for ratings, no longer works. Stephen A. Smith walked into the lion's den and left with the lions questioning their roar. He didn't let the view dictate the conversation. He brought facts into a feelings fight, and feelings didn't stand a chance. That's why the clip went viral, not because he destroyed anyone online, but because reason still matters. Calm, clear thought still works. In the most hostile environment, truth shines through. The View's emotional theater failed, reminding viewers why they're tuning out daytime political talk. Stephen A. didn't play the game, he changed it, proving that in today's media, honesty and clarity beat volume every time.